What's up, 50 folders? Are you hoping to go viral? Do you have an app-type business whereby paid acquisition just frankly doesn't make sense because the CPCs will always be higher than the average revenue you're going to get out of your users? Well, if so, you're going to have to figure out smarter ways of acquiring users. And that might be having some element of virality. But true virality is sort of a myth. There's few people who've ever really gone viral. So I have figured out a viral model, and it's free, and I'm going to teach you the basics of how to use it. If that sounds fun, stick with me right now.
Ask Alex. Ask Alex. Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
So there really hasn't been any real research into virality or anything posted in the startup land for about 8 years. One of the well-known guys who's now at Andreessen Horowitz is Andrew Chen, who sort of built up his brand by writing actually a couple of topics around marketing and virality. I found it really interesting when I was younger, like a long time ago, when he started writing those blogs, but there's been nothing since. And frankly, his work is pretty basic stuff. So I really started finding this whole topic quite interesting. And since no one had written on it, I decided to do my own research, culminating in making this model. And it was a huge pain in the ass because frankly, I suck at maths. Anyway, I'm not bad at Excel, so I've had gone and plugged away and gone into this. I even have created my own terms in order to try and bring up the literature. So I've made a free model. Originally, I made it in the 50Folds app and social model and decided, hey, why don't I just share it with everybody? And so if you want to get the full model, feel free to head to my blog and the paid models, and you can download it there. But this is an extract from that which you can use. So you might notice one or two places it may not seem totally intuitive. It's because I literally ripped it out of a model, which I did, and reformatted it a little bit. So let's dig into it. I'm not going to get super nerdy on all the terms, etc. I've written a long ass blog where I do get really nerdy on this. I'll put a link to that below if you're not on my blog already. And I highly recommend you go through that in detail and actually understand this stuff more academically. I'm just going to teach you how to use the model right now. Okay, so first thing you want to do is have a quick little look and understand how formatting, etc. works, understand what the sheets are, and saying thank you to some of the people who I read to get the basics and built up my own terms. If you're on PC, head to options, or click Alt-TO, click on formulas, make sure you're on automatic, enable iterative calculations. I don't think I've got any iterative calculations in here. It's just best practice to turn them on just in case. Turn that on, thank you very much, and now you're done. On the Mac, it's similar. You just need to figure out what the tools are. Okay, let's zoom in here. So there's notes on every sheet to teach you generally what's happening, where things move around. The first assumption is you're going to have to get customers from somewhere, right? You're going to get them to your site. So these are probably going to be paid marketing. So you type in what your numbers are. If you've got a forecast, you can copy and paste them in. You can see with the number of decimal points that I have here that, yeah, I ripped them out of the actual model. But you want to put in what your forecasts are of how many people you're actually going to get to your site and download this stuff. Now, when you're calculating virality, there's all these complicated formulas, which probably makes sense for us to get into here. So K-factor is something most people have heard of. It's a relatively popular term in viral land. The K-factor is basically the invitations times by the conversion rate, okay? Or AR here. Mine is adjusted conversion rate. Invitations, number of invites. And so someone downloads your app, you spam them or whatever, and you make them add their entire Facebook group or something. That might be 3,500 Facebook fans. Or maybe you get them to get them to kind of email their friends and get them to sign up, in which case your invitations might be 10. What matters then is that conversion rate of how many people get spammed as by how many people actually respond to it and sign up. So that's effective your K-factor. Thing is, K-factor doesn't really make any sense because it doesn't actually factor in your churn rate, L. So this term I invented is called the effective viral growth factor, which adjusts your viral coefficient by your churn rate. And this is going to vary over time because churn is, it's not just a one-time event, which makes this actually pretty complicated to do. So your effective viral growth factor is basically adjusting a viral coefficient for churn, which I don't know why people didn't do before, but seriously. On this AR, your conversion rate, you want to actually adjust this, okay? Because if you go super viral, like Branch Out went super viral and kind of saturated its market and kind of killed itself, there's only a defined populace of people who might ever actually want to use your service. And that could be a big number. It could be 50 million people. But if you go viral, actually viral, which is really rare, you may get there pretty darn quickly. At which point, once you've been saturating the market, you can assume that your conversion rate is going to be coming down. For one reason being, maybe people are inviting the same people. So naturally, you'd want that invitation rate for the conversion to decrease too. Because if I spam 10 people, you spam 10 people, and we've all been doing it for a while, chances are 10, 20, 50 to 100% of people will end up having been spammed too. So that conversion rate should be coming down. Now, the viral invitation factor is another thing which I've invented, which is telling you the number of new users that will come from a cohort adjusted for churn. And you can see this crazy algebra thing, which I had to figure out to make it work. For the calculations, they're all spelled out here with the little letters using for my math fun. So you can follow these. And I'm going to go back up to the top now and show you how I've deconstructed the key variables in Virality, so you can actually really on a granular basis think about how do you engineer virality. And virality is not something that just happens, it's something that you engineer, right? The way that you increase the conversion factors on site because you do things better, or the way you enable people to be inviting other people. There are distinct things that you're going to do over time as you get better and smarter, which will help your virality get better. And virality is basically when every single time you invite one person, they invite one or more. Even 1.01% is virality, and it's pretty fucking crazy what happens if you get viral. Very few people are viral. Dropbox wasn't ever really viral, was briefly. The only other benchmark I've been able to get is EchoSign, who effectively have, their viral coefficient is 0.2, which it basically means that your acquisition cost is 20% less, which is great, right? So one of the first points you're going to think about engineering, right, after you put in how many people are coming in, is how many people are going to invite their friends. So we'll assume there's a base rate of 5 here. So John is going to come up and he's going to add, Mary and Sarah and whatever, his 5 friends. But we'll assume that your product gets better over time. And so you can assume that you're going to add in, half an extra person here, half an extra person here, half an extra person here. And then these calculations aggregate them up. So we can see that the number of people that Mary in future is going to invite is 6.5 and not 0.5. So your invitation rates are getting higher. Now, the next thing we're going to have here is your conversion rate calculations. So you can assume, say, 18% of people are going to actually convert over time, and that's your base rate. But you want that to be better, right? So therefore, I'm putting a positive number. Again, I'm just using 0.5, so it's just round number. You assume I have a 0.5% here, 0.5, 0.5, because you're going to do specific things. I'm writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, but it's like, better landing page, right? So you're going to map out what exactly are you going to do to actually improve your business. Now, the next thing that we have here is viral cycle time. Viral cycle time is pretty important. It's actually really important if you're doing things really well, but nothing matters if your churn rates are high, which is the next thing we'll talk about. So cycle time means I sign up Jim, Jim sends it to Mary, and then it takes 9 days for Mary to then invite Susan and whoever else, right? The number of invitations that you're sending in. The rate at which people keep on spinning it around is your cycle time. It's like virality. So if zombies are running around biting people, if it takes 9 days, it's going to take 9 days before each another infected person happens. Whereas most zombie movies, it's something about like 7 seconds. So you can understand that when people are infecting each other very rapidly, that cycle time is very important. But if people keep dying, which is your churn rate, then that's obviously not important, because every time someone gets bitten, if 100% of people die, your effectiveness is 0, despite the fact that everyone is getting bitten, right? So the number of people dying before they start infecting other people is really important. But think of it this way. If people are biting everyone like every 5 seconds and 100% of people get infected, you fucked up New York pretty goddamn quick, right? Like it's like the movies with Brad Pitt or something. So you might be able to improve the time. So you see these are negatives, right? Because you want the days to decrease over time because you've done something specific. I don't know, make the links actually work, right? So that's what you're going to do to decrease your cycle time. Now, churn rates. We're assuming our churn rate, base rate is 40%. For app businesses, and it's really scary, on average 65% of people churn out in the first month. 10% the next month, 5% the next month. So in total, in 3 months, you lose 80% of everyone who downloads your app. If you can decrease that churn rate, scary things are going to happen. And it is, the power of compounding is frankly magical and mind-blowing. So the more you can do to decrease your churn rate, the more amazing things will happen. But if you're taking the baselines of basically 80% of people going, this really dampens your business. It really is just saying that the zombies die pretty fast, and so they don't get a chance to go running around eating everybody. So again, ideally you'd want to have your base rate to decrease of your churn rates. And so it might start higher, but over time, because of, I don't know, like free ice cream, and, you know, free puppies, because who doesn't love puppies? These things will decrease your churn rate. And then they aggregate over time, so your effective churn rate then, for new people, is going to decrease. And this churn rate is your first instance. The churn rate for an ongoing basis is going to get factored into this model. So you can set out here, and you can move these assumptions across if you want, right? The ongoing churn rate is going to be factored in there. Okay, we just killed the puppies. Bad idea. So market size calculations. I told you if you do go viral, you can actually get into the millions of people pretty darn quickly. And it's frankly actually staggeringly what can happen. So you might say at the start we focus on whatever grumpy teenagers in America, but because you're going to expand to England, there are 10 million grumpy teenagers in England. And so, you know, you can type in whenever you want the numbers, 500,000, because you're going to go to Ireland, some pox-little country, 5 million people, whatever. Whole of Ireland plus more people. These numbers can, you know, increase your market size. And so that means that if you start getting up to a large, spinning through the large market, because you are expanding to new countries or something, that your adjusted conversion rate will decrease because you're able to target more people. So all the calculations are spelled out how I've done it here. We have the time days, which is a calculation of how many days are in a month. We see here, this is 28, this is February, obviously. The number of invites that are going to be happening, these are all linked to your assumptions, right? So these start pulling in all your key assumptions for it. And then they start doing calculations, all right, of what your viral coefficient is. So K is equal to I times AR. IAR equals, right? Your viral cycle time has been taken from the top, the churn rate has been taken from the top, market size taken from the top. Now, our effective viral growth factor, all right, which is your K factor adjusted for your churn rates. And you can see that these actually vary over time depending on what your assumptions are. Now we're going to start calculating actually how many users are going to be coming through. So we have the downloads and marketing, which is coming from the top up here. And then we see how many viral downloads are happening in row 287 all the way down here somewhere. So this calculates new users from viral acquisition. That tells you total downloads. Now, we want to be tracking what your cumulative viral downloads, total downloads are, churn viral downloads, in order to get the cumulative downloads, like the total of everyone who's ever tried, plus the people who hated you and just disappeared and leave immediately, because that's going to be used for adjusted conversion rate, right? So we've got this max, whatever, it's a complicated function here, which is going to slow down as you start going through your market. All right, so you adjust conversion rates getting up at 18.9% when it was starting at 18, because actually it looks like you're improving things. And we haven't spun through enough of the market for this to actually be influential. But if we see that we've got a smaller market, I don't know, call it 1 million people, then you can see your adjusted conversion rate, 15.4%, has been decreasing despite the fact of your improvements here. The fact that you've been churning through too many people is decreasing your adjusted conversion rate due to the market size. And then we've just got endless amounts of cohort-based calculations who are going to do all the calculations for us. So we have the cumulative viral user factor, all these things that I've been making up. Differences in viral factors between added users to see when we should be adding people in. You can see they've only barely last a couple of months before you get to 0. Users from viral acquisitions, here are calculations for these. Average implied blah, 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 equals our calculations. You need to follow these. Then we have the viral churned users. And this is taking a delta between viral loss factors in order to figure out what additional amount of losses we should be incurring. Then we have a difference in the viral factor added users, users churn from viral acquisition, and that leaves us the end. And all this tries to get to is what the actual cumulative amount of viral downloads are, and then the cumulative total amount, right? I know that my math for the way I'm accounting for cumulative viral downloaders is not right. It's beyond me. I hired a Russian mathematician to help me figure it out, but he couldn't do it. So if anyone is far smarter than I am and has a play with this model and is able to give me some ways of improving this, that would be really cool. So I'm a nerd, but let's just say I didn't really get A's in econometrics and really advanced nerdy topics in university. So if you can help me out, it'd be pretty good. But generally this model is better than anything else on the internet. Here is some interesting sensitivity analysis that I've done for you. And we can see here 2 points, right? It's basically impossible to get near effective viral growth factor, even with low churn rates, unless you're an outlier, right? And bearing in mind the 1 month churn rate for an app is 65%. That's actually crazy. You technically need to have a viral coefficient of 2.85 to get an EVGF of 1. The second one we're going to show you is that cycle time only matters when your churn rate is really low. To get meaningful results when you go low cycle time, it's really when you're actually talking about churn rates less than 10%, which is pretty punchy, right? So this whole notion of virality is very overblown. So if we can see your viral coefficient in a sensitivity table against your churn rates, you can see what the effective factors that you want to be seeing in order to get this, right, for your effective viral growth factor. And here, when we plot against your churn rate and cycle time, you can see I put in some conditional formatting. Things really start getting crazy when you're under about 16%. Look what happens, right? You go from 13 to 12, it's a 50% change, 50% change. Almost double, right? This is, well, like 4 times the amount. Things get crazy when your churn rate is low. And then your cycle time, you can see it's pretty bland, right? Generally, it doesn't matter that much. But your effective viral growth factor actually starts going boom, 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 right? When your churn rate is low. Otherwise, it's not as interesting. So the churn is the most important factor in your virality. That's the biggest piece I did for my research. Here, I've got a relatively simplistic model, which is going to try and factor out churn rates on an ongoing basis. So we're assuming that there is going to be churn happening initially, but then there'll be a lifetime consistency, so like a low churn rate, so people will end up staying for about 5 years. And this model in cohorts, again, calculates all the factors that we need for this. So this is the nerdiest, most advanced thing that's currently on the internet. If you've got feedback, I'd absolutely love it for you. Otherwise, hopefully, this will really help you put virality into perspective into your startup. And hopefully not make you disillusioned that you're just going to go viral. But when you break things down of all the constituent parts, you'll actually be able to understand, hey, maybe you will go viral, why that will happen. If not, don't be delusional, right? It's your life that you're spending on the line doing this stuff. All right, guys, I hope that was interesting, valuable. Keep hustling.